The Chicago White Sox lost to the Kansas City Royals, and it wasn't even close. The Sox have now lost 8 games in a row. 7 of those losses have come against the AL Central. More defensive troubles and a non existent offense. But hey, the Sox have to win eventually, right?
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some of your time to talk White Sox, especially after last night's game. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to get to the Dylan Cease versus Zach Greinke matchup. Also, what Sox players are close to rejoining the team. But first, another brutal loss for our White Sox. State of the Sox, 6-10. That's right. The defending AL Central champions are 6-10 right now on the year. 4th place in the AL Central. Sox lost to the Royals Tuesday night, 6-0. Well, it's not dark, but it's getting there. Another lifeless, anemic, frustrating, pressing. They looked lost. I'm running out of ways to describe how the Sox have been playing. But I've heard a lot of excuses for why this White Sox team is playing poorly. And I've probably used some of these. Maybe you have. Maybe you can add to this list. I've heard all about the injuries. There are a lot of them to some key members of this team. There's some players that have not put a White Sox uniform on yet during this regular season. The short spring training, it was 3.5 weeks, a little too short. Players are not ready and not clicking on all cylinders. The weather, it hasn't been good baseball weather, and it wasn't on Tuesday night, and it won't be probably for a few days here in Chicago. Very cold. They're moving the Wednesday game from a 6:10 start to a day game. I'm sure you've heard about that. Because of the weather, it's going to be very cold and windy. So maybe the weather has been playing into it. It's only April. Relax. It's just April. Okay, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. It's only April. That excuse is going to be running out soon because it'll be May this coming weekend. And maybe there's some legs to that. It's only April excuse. I honestly believe that there is so much talent on this White Sox team. You have to make some sort of excuse for it because it just doesn't make sense otherwise. You can't take it at face value almost. And of course, I hear a lot about Tony LaRussa, Frank Menachino. What's LaRussa doing? That one's a tough one. Talked about it on yesterday's episode. What does LaRussa give you right now? What are these intangibles that he was brought in out of retirement? What is he bringing to the White Sox team right now? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. We are the defending AL Central champions. Teams are going to be coming after us all season long, and the losing streak is at 8 games. 7 of them have been against the alleged weak AL Central. 3 losses against the Guardians, then 3 against the Twins, and now, of course, 1 against the Royals. April was supposed to be the month that the White Sox were going to get out of the gate early. Now we're playing catch up. Coming into the game, Tim Anderson was hitting 353, on base percentage 387, and slugging 519 with 27 runs scored in 33 games against the Kansas City Royals, dating back to 2019. Didn't do much in the game offensively. Did commit another error. We'll get to that in a moment. Josh Harrison was at designated hitter in Tuesday's game. There was no Lurie Garcia in the lineup. No Lurie Garcia at all. And Luis Robert was not in the lineup. We thought he would be back on Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit more on news and notes on Luis Robert. Things really came undone for the Sox in the fourth inning, though. There were two errors. Jose Abreu could not catch a throw from Tim Anderson. It was a low throw, but it hit Abreu on a fly in the palm of his glove, then bounced out. And then Jake Berger couldn't field a little dribbler at third base, kind of rushed it. I think he was going to try to throw home to get Perez, but he fumbled that. Two errors in that inning and three walks issued by Dallas Keuchel. That was in the fourth, and it just kind of all went downhill from there. Really death by 1,000 paper cuts. It felt like the Royals scored a bunch of runs without the ball even going out of the infield. Keuchel seemed to shut down once those errors occurred. You could just see it, the demeanor, a little similar to what happened in Cleveland. But, the margin of error is just so small with this White Sox team. You cannot give the opposition any extra outs when you have no offense going on. And, to Keuchel's credit, he pitched pretty well, especially when you want to put it up against his game in Cleveland, his last start. Keuchel on Tuesday night went 4 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, 0 earned runs, 5 walks. That's what killed him. 2 strikeouts. He has dropped his ERA from 15 down to 9. I don't know. Maybe that's a silver lining. He threw 88 pitches. 42 of them were strikes. Everything was just kind of ducking and diving, missing down and out of the zone. When Keuchel left, Lopez came in. He gave up 3 earned runs. Then it was Crick, Foster, and Severino. The Chicago White Sox pitching issued 11 walks to the Royals. I thought there might be something going for the Sox in the bottom of the fourth. Yaz led off with a double, but then there was a strikeout from Pollock. A real shame. You got to get that guy to third. Berger hit a ball to the warning track, and if you are a part of the dead ball conspiracy theory, this one was for you. I cannot believe that one stopped at the warning track. And then Mr. Josh Harrison, the DH, he grounded out to end that inning. And that was pretty much it. There weren't a lot of threats by the White Sox. Sox have only scored 12 runs during this 8-game losing streak. Like I'd mentioned, more errors on the night. Tim Anderson committed his 7th. And the Sox now have a league-leading 20 errors. But that just can't be because it's April, can it? I'm going to tell you what kind of help might be on the way for our White Sox. Going to need some of that. More on that in just a moment. Want to tell you about Athletic Greens. I've been taking AG1, their flagship product, for over 3 weeks now, and have noticed improvement in my overall metabolism, better sleep, and I just feel better. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews, is recommended by professional athletes, and trusted by leading health experts. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional Insurance. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get into a little bit of news and notes. Rick Hahn spoke before Tuesday's game, and he had some updates on some folks that have not played a single game for our Chicago White Sox yet this year, and some other folks that hopefully are on the mend sooner rather than later. Yoan Moncada will hopefully begin a rehab assignment at AAA Charlotte this weekend. So could Joe Kelly, assuming his last outing in Arizona goes well. Boy, the Sox are missing Yoan Moncada, not only defensively, but with that offense. And it would be really nice to see what Joe Kelly can do with this bullpen that has kind of been falling apart as of late. Hahn also expects Luis Robert to play tomorrow. It sounded like he was either going to play Tuesday night or Wednesday during the day, one or the other. Weather might be a factor, but, it was cold Tuesday night. It's going to be cold again Wednesday. Can't be good for the hamstring, the groin, whatever he's working through. Hopefully we'll see Robert back on Wednesday. Liam Hendriks suffered back spasms in Minnesota. We talked about that, saw that live as the game was unraveling. Surprised nobody came out to give a look to Hendriks and that he actually finished pitching that inning. Hahn says he's day-to-day, if not available tonight, meaning Tuesday. Didn't need him when the Sox got pounded 6-0. Rick Hahn also said Eloy Jimenez, the estimated timeline to return to the roster remains around 2 months, underwent a minor procedure with a tendon behind his right knee, similar to something that Yaz went through last year, and I think Lance Lynn might even went through in early April. Also, speaking of, just want to talk broadcasting, Jason Benetti, some news on Benetti. I don't know if you saw this. He is named voice of NBC Peacock Sunday night baseball games. So we will not have Jason Benetti for Sunday Sox games. I think Len Casper will probably move into that role with Steve Stone. Happy for Jason Benetti. Watching Tuesday night's game, and I watched all of it, and it was absolutely brutal. But thinking a lot about Hawk Harrelson and missing Hawk a little bit. Love what Jason does, but there are moments when things are going really bad, and I just kind of want the personalities, the broadcasters to kind of feel it like we're feeling it as fans. And Tuesday night's game was the type of game where Hawk Harrelson would have just gone silent for the last 3 innings. He would have let DJ or Stoney do all the reading, all the live reads, and try to fill any kind of dead air. Hawk just would have not even talked. He would have been that upset. Happy though for Jason, and we'll see how that chemistry is with Len Casper and Steve Stone, if it is Len Casper jumping in. Read a little something from MLB.com. This was written by Scott Merkin, who covers the White Sox for MLB.com. And every team was kind of focused on like a bright spot or one thing to believe in for every team. I don't know if you saw this, if it ended up in your email inbox, but this happened to focus on Andrew Vaughn for the White Sox, which is not a surprise. And this is some of the stuff that Merkin wrote about why you should be believing in Andrew Vaughn. The White Sox are expecting big results from Vaughn. He ran into a bit of a wall last September, but the early numbers indicate the White Sox were right and looking for strong production. Vaughn leads the club with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs, not to mention a .575 slugging percentage and an OPS of .939. He ranks in the 95th percentile with a hard hit rate of 54.5. And of course, we're going to be seeing a lot of Andrew Vaughn with Jimenez on the shelf for about 2 months. Saw Andrew Vaughn in the game Tuesday. Didn't do much offensively. And, he's not going to win any gold gloves in left field. Looked like he might have taken a couple rough routes on some of the fly balls out there. But, he is learning so much. It's almost like he's drinking from a fire hose. Positions being rotated around and still, I think, trying to catch up to major league hitting. But I would agree with what Scott has written on Andrew Vaughn. I'm excited to see what Andrew does throughout this season. Hopefully, of course, he stays healthy. Going back to some of the reasons why the Sox, what's going on with the Sox, what can change, and a lot of fingers pointing to Tony LaRussa. I don't see that happening. I don't think a change is going to be made. There's an article in the Chicago Tribune yesterday on kind of on some bad Sox teams and highlighted the 1995 Sox team. Has written this article by Paul Sullivan, who's seen a lot of baseball in his career. And if you remember this White Sox team, 1995 coming out of the strike year, and they were favorites to win the division. Sullivan wrote about how the Sox had committed 21 errors in their first 6 games, which kind of sounds familiar. It affected, of course, the pitching. Ventura had a fielding slump, kind of similar to what TA is going through. The Sox had the worst record in the majors after 31 games when manager Gene Lamont was fired. It was only the second time in 15 seasons that Reinsdorf had given his general manager the okay to fire a Sox manager. The other one was Tony LaRussa, who, of course, is now back at the helm with our White Sox in season 2 of his 2.0 run. I don't see LaRussa getting canned. I really don't. This is the guy that Reinsdorf handpicked. This is the man that it was almost like Reinsdorf had seen enough. It's like, okay, I'm going with this guy. I'm bringing this guy out of retirement. And if you can think back to that press conference when Rick Hahn was announcing Tony LaRussa and trying to sell Tony LaRussa on us, he just looked so uncomfortable. Hey, Tony LaRussa is here. He's seen a lot. He's been through these things before. What do you got, Tony? What can you do for this White Sox team? You're not on the field committing the errors. You're not, with a bat hitless. But how do you rally these guys? How do you get the chemistry to stay tight? Hey, if you've done it before, I'm sure you can, work your magic again. But we'll see. I just don't see a managerial change happening. It would have to be Tony LaRussa stepping down as manager of the White Sox, not Reinsdorf firing him, in my opinion. Paul Sullivan also wrote about just how bad the defense has been for the White Sox. Sox committed 97 errors last year, which was the 4th worst in the AL. The Sox really didn't do much to improve on that in the offseason. So it's kind of no shock, as Sullivan wrote, that they're sitting now with now 20 errors, league worst. This losing streak has got to end, and it is a Dylan Cease day. I'm going to tell you why the losing streak ends at 8. More on that in just a moment. This is the time of year when most people have given up on their New Year's resolutions, but not me. I'm sticking to my resolution of eating right thanks to Built Bar. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included, 100% real chocolate. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to built.com. You'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So reading a few other articles, always go to The Athletic. Really enjoy what James Fegan writes about, and I've talked about him several times on this podcast. And he had a great article. Check it out on just the relationship to maybe what the Sox have been doing record-wise, performance-wise, and their walk rate. What they were doing last year compared to what they're doing now. And they're producing one of the lowest walk rates in baseball, 6.3% right now. Now the ground ball rate and their strikeouts has improved according to Fegan. He's got some great numbers in the article. Those have improved since last year to put the Sox in the better half of the league. But it's this lack of getting on base, just chasing some pitches or going after that first pitch. It's that balance game of you want to be aggressive, but you also know you got to get on base. And it's not been happening for the Sox in multiple different ways. As Frank Menachino has said in a recent article, it's just a perfect storm. So when's it going to change? And I think it's going to change on Wednesday. It's Dylan Cease Day. He matches up against Zach Greinke. It's a day game. They move that from 610 to 110. Temps are going to be in the low 40s. Cease so far on the year is 2-1. He's pitched 16 innings, has 19 strikeouts in those 16 innings, 7 walks, and his ERA sits at 3.38. In 2021 against the Kansas City Royals, Dylan Cease had a 1-1 record with an ERA of 1.98 and 35 strikeouts in 5 appearances against those Royals. Now, the White Sox have seen Zach Greinke quite a bit. He is, of course, back with the Royals, spent some time with the Astros. Zach Greinke is 9-10 with an ERA of 3.95. 153 strikeouts, 1 save, and 28 appearances against the White Sox in his career. So we've got a lot of video on Zach Greinke for those folks in the lineup that have never seen him before. Zach Greinke this year is 0-1 with an ERA of 2.25, 2 strikeouts, and 3 appearances this season. I'm looking for Dylan Cease to put another solid outing together. He wasn't as sharp in his most recent outing, but I think he's the stopper, and this losing streak ends. Folks, really appreciate you making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find Locked On Sox everywhere you find podcasts. We're on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter, at Nick_GGTB. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan. Just call him Sully. He brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I'll break down Game 2 of this series with the Royals and get you ready for another Michael Kopech start. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.